Hey everyone. So, let's talk about a huge question that gets right to the heart of this field. What exactly makes psychology a real science and not just a bunch of, well, common sense? The thing is, we're all amateur psychologists, right? We're constantly trying to figure people out. But to really understand the mind, we've got to move past those gut feelings and learn how to investigate properly. Let's dive in and see how it's done. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by putting common sense under the microscope to see why it so often lets us down. Then we'll introduce its much more powerful alternative, the scientific method. After that, we'll get into the core principles, the main goals, and the tools that psychologists use, all leading up to the grand prize, figuring out cause and effect.
All right, let's kick things off with something we all do every single day, usually without even realizing it. I'm talking about our intuitive hunches about why people act the way they do.
I mean, this is the big one, isn't it? We're collecting data all the time, trying to guess a friend's mood, predicting how your boss is going to react to something. You're constantly forming hypotheses. But the real question is, are your conclusions actually correct, or is there a better, more reliable way to get to the truth?
Okay, I'm willing to bet you've heard all of these before. They sound right, they feel true. But here's the wild part. Scientific research has shown that every single one of these is, well, a myth. Take the idea of letting it out when you're angry, punching a pillow or something. Studies actually show that venting like that can make you more angry, not less. And that's our first big clue that our intuition can be totally off base.
So this intuitive approach we all use actually has a name. Researchers call it common sense psychology, or sometimes folk psychology. You can think of it as the mental software we use to navigate our social lives. And look, it gets us through the day, but it's built on a foundation that's surprisingly non-scientific. So why does our common sense trip us up so often? It really boils down to our brains taking shortcuts. Our brains are built for speed, not necessarily for accuracy. We're all vulnerable to things like confirmation bias, where we literally hunt for evidence that proves we're right and ignore anything that suggests we're wrong. And we're wildly overconfident, believing our judgments are way more accurate than they are. These shortcuts are fine for quick decisions, but they are terrible tools for discovering the truth.
Okay, so if our intuition is so flawed, what are we supposed to do? Well, that's where the scientific alternative comes in, and it offers a much more reliable way to understand people. Here it is, the official textbook definition. And I want you to focus on that one single word that changes everything: scientific. That's the magic word. It's what separates real psychology from just sitting around and guessing about people. It's not just a collection of cool ideas. It's a rigorous science.
And this brings us to the term psychological science. This is important because it highlights that psychology isn't just a pile of facts, it's an active process. It's a way of doing things, a way of asking and answering questions about the mind using a very specific, systematic method.
Let's put them side by side, because the difference is just night and day. Common sense is based on gut feelings and stories we've heard. The scientific method, it demands cold, hard, empirical data. Common sense is full of our personal biases. Science strives for objectivity. But here's the kicker. A scientific claim means nothing until other people can verify it and replicate it. The whole system is designed to act as a safety net to protect us from ourselves.
So if you want to think like a psychological scientist, you have to adopt a very specific kind of mindset. It's built on a few core, non-negotiable principles. This quote really gets to the core of what's called the scientific mentality. It's this deep-down belief that human behavior isn't just random chaos. It follows patterns, it has causes, and if it has causes, that means we can figure them out. This fundamental idea that we can discover these cause and effect relationships is known as determinism.
Right. So good scientific thinking isn't just a free-for-all. It has rules. Your conclusions have to come from the data, period, not from what you hope is true. Scientists also live by the principle of parsimony. You might know it as Occam's razor. It basically means you should always go with the simplest explanation that covers all the facts. And crucially, a finding isn't really trusted until other scientists can do the same experiment and get the same results. That's called replication, and it's the gold standard. So we have the mindset, we have the principles, but what's the actual end game here? What are psychological scientists really trying to accomplish with all this work?
You can think of it like a four-step mission. The first step is just description. You have to be able to clearly describe and classify what you're seeing. Once you can do that, you can move on to prediction, which is forecasting when that behavior might happen again. The third step is the toughest one, explanation. This is where you figure out why it's happening. And finally, if you can do all that, you might get to the final step, control, where you can apply that knowledge to actually influence behavior.
So how do researchers actually achieve those four objectives? Well, they don't go in empty-handed. They have a basic toolkit they rely on.
So in this basic toolkit, there are three essential instruments. It all starts with observation, just systematically watching and recording what's going on. Then comes measurement, which is how we turn those observations into numbers so we can analyze them. And finally, we have the most powerful tool in the whole kit, experimentation. This is where we stop just watching and start actively testing our ideas under controlled conditions.
And that powerful tool, experimentation, brings us to the holy grail of psychological science, finally figuring out what actually causes what.
Now, this is one of the most important things you will ever learn in psychology, so listen closely. While other research methods are useful, a true experiment is the only method that can prove that one thing causes another. I'm going to say it again. It's the only one.
So what exactly do we mean by a cause and effect relationship? It's pretty straightforward, really. It means we can prove that if we change one thing, it reliably leads to a change in something else. If we can show that a certain behavior only happens after we introduce a specific trigger, then we can be pretty darn sure we've found the cause.
But to call something a real experiment, it has to meet a strict three-part checklist. 1. The researcher has to manipulate the conditions. They have to be in control. 2. The behavior you're studying has to be something you can actually see and observe. And 3. That outcome has to be measurable. You've got to be able to put numbers on it. If you're missing any one of those pieces, you cannot claim you've established cause and effect.
And that, right there, is the bottom line. Our gut feelings are interesting, they're fun to talk about, but they're just not reliable. By using the principles and tools of science, experimental psychology gives us a trustworthy, systematic way to get past what we think is true and find out what really truly is.
So as you go forward, remember this framework. You now have the basic toolkit to start questioning those old myths and to begin making your own discoveries. You have what it takes to be a detective of the human mind. So the only question left is, what are you going to investigate?